It's always nice to be joined by our citizens and businesses. For the record, it is Tuesday, March 24th at 6 p.m. We'll start tonight's meeting with roll call attendance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Here.
Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Here.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Here.
Mayor DeVeard.
Here.
And Councilmembers Mylum and Borton are absent.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you will all rise and join us in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 is our community invocation. Tonight will be led by Pastor Justin Jordan with the Real Life Ministries. If you will all join us in the community invocation or take this as an opportunity for a moment of reflection. Pastor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Let's pray. Lord, we come before you and just thank you and praise you that we've been given another day. And Lord, I just want to lift up our leaders of this community, this council, tonight as they make decisions on the best for what is best for Meridian. We ask, God, that you just continue to use them and bless them as they lead our community and lead Meridian to be the best community that we can in this great state of Idaho. We pray for our community. We pray for protection for all the people that are involved, the mayor's office, just the police department, fire department, all the different entities that are involved. God, we ask that you just continue to bless this community like you have already and allow great things continue to happen as we know that you are a good God. And we ask, Lord, that you would just continue to bless and use these people to make this community great. We pray that tonight and all the decisions would be the betterment for the citizens of Meridian as a whole, and they would continue to be a vibrant community for families to come and to raise their families. We thank you, Lord, for your Son, and we pray this all in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Item number 4 is adoption of the agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
on item number 9A, the resolution number is 15-1058, and item number 10A, the ordinance number is 15-1639. And with those, Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Item 5 is our consent agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as published and authorize the clerk to attest and the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approving the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Okay, item 6A, we will be swearing in 2 of our new firefighters. So I'll turn this over to Chief Jones.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to welcome into our ranks our 2 newest firefighters. And with that said, I'd like to ask Nick Picono and Michael Bayless to join me at the podium, please. Thank you, guys. Madam Mayor, members of council, this is Michael Bayless. Michael Bayless comes to us from the Caldwell Fire Department. Michael has a degree in business from Boise State University. He is married to his wife Kelly since 2011, and again, recently joined us from the Caldwell Fire Department. Nick Picono has a bachelor's degree in biology from the College of Idaho, where he met his wife Molly. They have 3 boys, Rocco, Enzo, and Nico, who are here. And prior to coming to work in the fire service, he was the education director at the World Center for Birds of Prey. just south of Meridian. Most recently was a firefighter with the Caldwell Fire Department, and they have joined us as of Monday this week. So with that, Madam Mayor, would you please join me at the podium to pin the badges?
I will, and I guess I will need to send a note to Mayor Nancolas. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mayor, I'm going to ask Michael's father, Gordon Bayless, to join us at the podium and pin his badge, please. Mr. Bayless, will you join us, please?
Okay. You'll raise your right hand. I state your name, do hereby declare
I, Michael Bayless, do hereby declare
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Idaho,
and the state of Idaho,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
as firefighter to the Meridian Fire Department
as firefighter to the Meridian Fire Department
and to the citizens of Meridian
and to the citizens of Meridian
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I promise to protect and enhance our community
I promise to protect and enhance our community
through professionalism and compassion
through professionalism and compassion
in accordance with the Meridian Fire Department
in accordance with the Meridian Fire Department's
guiding principles and policies.
guiding principles and policies.
Congratulations.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to ask Nick's son Rocco to join us at the podium to help him back on his dad. Ready to go?
I state your name, do hereby declare
I, Nick Bacono, do hereby declare
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Idaho,
and the state of Idaho,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
as firefighter to the Meridian Fire Department
as firefighter to the Meridian Fire Department
and to the citizens of Meridian
and to the citizens of Meridian
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I promise to protect and enhance our community
I promise to protect and enhance our community
through professionalism and compassion
through professionalism and compassion
in accordance with the Meridian Fire Department's
in accordance with the Meridian Fire Department
guiding principles and policies.
guiding principles and policies.
All right, buddy. Can you do that?
Well, I would like to join you both to the Meridian Fire Department's family and just take a moment to thank the families of our two newest fire department members. They have entered into a close-knit family, and we know that you will all be sacrificing some of your time with your loved ones during holidays and other special occasions. But I do think that you have joined the best, and we welcome you and just wish you great success. Thank you for joining our team. Okay, item 6B is under discussion of our 2015 Dairy Days, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Neri.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I want to make a statement that I am a member of the Dairy Show Board, but I do not believe that this would conflict with any agreement or any voting that I would do. I'll let the other council decide.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm just going to, I guess, start the discussion just to give you some history as to what we're here tonight about. As part of our special events process, we have a team that's made up of representatives from the clerk's office, planning and zoning, the building department, fire, and police to meet and discuss all of the ramifications of any type of activity or event and what may be required, whether it's traffic control, whether it's on-site medical staff, what permitting is necessary for whatever the function is. And so with Dairy Days, we did have a meeting back in December with Dairy Days representatives as well as our staff to look at what was done previously. Last year, if you recall, we passed an ordinance to address historical programs within the city. Dairy Days is one of those that qualifies for that, so there's no permitting cost that's necessary for the event in regards to temporary use permits and those types. There may be permitting necessary sometimes for electrical and other things that are trade related, but not necessarily for just having the event. So the discussion was what was done previously and then what was going forward, what we would need to be done going forward. And that's what brings us here tonight. We looked at what had been done in the past. Last year, for example, we looked previously, and I have some information from the past, and some of it's more for context. When we didn't have the split corridor, and all we had was Main Street and Meridian Road in the older configuration, it was a different type of parade and a significantly different type of traffic control because of the way the streets and the traffic flow was. Last year was the first year of the parade in a new configuration. Now the parade goes down Franklin for a portion, then turns on 3rd Street, goes down to, it's not Carlton, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought on the street. Oh, Bauer Street, and then turns onto Bauer Street, and then turns onto Main. And that way it allows the through traffic to take the crossover and take Meridian Road and proceed north if they don't want to go to the parade, and they have the option to do that. So it changes the way traffic control is done. We looked at last year's cost, and of course, again, the permitting was waived. There was police presence at the parade, which is always required. The police presence was was about $2,000 in overtime costs. Last year there was specialty construction that was traffic control plan, signs, barricades, flaggers. Those are required by ACHD. That a traffic control plan be implemented, and specialty construction is one of the people that does that in this community, and that cost was almost $4,000 of barricades and signs and flaggers and such. They anticipate this year potentially, again, the same cost of overtime for the police officers that are necessary to staff the parade, as well as the barricades and traffic control and traffic signs. Chief Levy isn't here, and I don't know if Lieutenant Stokes or Sergeant Gonzalez want to address this too. One of the things Chief Levy made a comment was that it actually helps control some of the costs by using a group such as Specialty Construction and using their materials, because it then allows a barricade to substitute for a police car to block a roadway off or to make sure that pedestrians don't end up in the parade route. And so using barricades and such is a much less expense, but it is an expense. And it is a hard cost that comes to somebody to pay, and last year the city paid that. So it was about $2,000 in police staffing last year, as well as approximately almost $4,000 in the specialty construction costs. There was, again, permits were waived. There were some additional costs for parks recreation staff overtime, and those were also, again, included from the city and were not charged back to the dairy board. This year, again, they anticipate the same thing. The only thing that was different was there was a request. They did feel it was important to have on-site medical personnel. In the past, what was done was really the response would come from Station 1 when there was a medical need. And trying, though, to then use the apparatus, the engine or the ladder truck to access the parade to provide a medical support wasn't very practical. And so Chief Niemeyer looked at the cost of providing 2 on-site, either paramedic and EMT, on an alternative vehicle, a mule or something like that, so they'd be more mobile and they would be able to access the parade route safer and easier than trying to use the apparatus. And the cost of that would be approximately $700. So that was the only additional cost that was different from last year, is that addition, although we think from a public safety standpoint, it's a much better improvement than trying to use the engines to do that. Those were the costs for the past. Those are the costs for last year and what's anticipated this year. The discussion I think the Dairy Board wished to have with the council tonight is which costs the city was willing to absorb and which costs the city felt was the responsibility of the Dairy Board, so that we would then continue the application, get it processed, and complete this so that we get the Dairy Days event off in June as it normally is held. So unless you had other questions or specific questions to the departments, I know Chief Jones can answer for the fire department and the lieutenant or the sergeant for police if you had additional concerns.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any questions from council?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zaremba.
I suppose this may affect traffic control. Somebody this morning commented on the medians that are currently being put in Main Street and asked how that would affect our 2 parades. Has anybody thought about whether the traffic pattern for the parades is going to change with the medians?
Madam Mayor, members of council, council members, remember that was discussed. I discussed it with Ms. Kane, who's part of our special events team. That was discussed. I believe the medians are placed in a way that still allows through traffic on both sides. So it allows vehicles the size of a fire truck or a garbage truck to pass. So I don't know that there's many, if there's any vehicles that are larger than that in the parade, that may prohibit that type of vehicle from being in it. But otherwise, when they remove the parking on Main Street for the parade, they should be able to pass next to those medians without any issue.
That was discussed when the Meridian Development Corporation talked about the medians that couldn't in any way hamper the parades.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything further? Is the Dairy Show, not Dairy Show Board?
Dairy Show Board.
Oh, Dairy Show Board? Okay.
Stock-
Dairy Board.
Dawkins, no, the Stockin.
Jerry. Thank you for joining us this evening.
My pleasure.
Jerry, if you can state your name for the record, we'd appreciate it.
Jerry Madison.
Thank you.
Gary Johnson.
Thank you, Terry.
I'd like to start off with just a statement, and then we'll get into some discussion and answer some questions that the council might have. The Meridian Dairy Board would first like to thank the city for its continued support of Meridian Dairy Days, which is the largest annual celebration in the city of Meridian every year. This year, we'll be celebrating the 86th consecutive year of Dairy Days. As many of you are aware, the Meridian Dairy Board is a nonprofit corporation whose primary focus is promoting the youth of this community, particularly 4-H and FFA chapters. We provide substantial financial support to those organizations' members through scholarships, as well as supporting many local and national activities they participate in. Since last year's Meridian Dairy Days events, members of our board, as well as many employees from the city, various departments, have had several meetings in an effort to improve the event. On March 6th of this year, we received an email from Senior Deputy City Clerk J.C. Jones suggesting that we request a time at a council meeting to address the city's role, particularly whether the city would absorb some or all of the costs of traffic control and public safety for the Dairy Days parade. Over the 86 years the Meridian Dairy Days has existed, the event has constantly evolved and changed. Our Meridian Dairy Days parade is now probably the largest attended parade in the state of Idaho. Unfortunately, another change that has occurred in the last 2 years has been the decreased participation in Dairy Days by the Meridian Chamber of Commerce. Last year, the chamber decided they would no longer sponsor the food and craft booze in the park. Not wanting to see this disappear, the Dairy Board took over that event and added numerous inflatable, I don't know what you call them, other than inflatables, for the children to play on. The cost that we charged for kids were $1 a day to use those things. Very inexpensive. This year, we were notified that the chamber, due to lack of getting volunteer support and profitability of the event, would no longer sponsor the pancake feed. Once again, not wanting to see this disappear, the Dairy Board has agreed also to take on that activity. Everyone connected with the parade wants it to be fun and safe activity. We share the city's concern to make the parade safe event for all. However, the cost involved in renting the required traffic control barricades, signage, and the hiring of professional flaggers would make this parade too expensive for the Dairy Board to continue putting on. Last year, the cost to rent the required traffic control safety measures, which the city graciously paid, was $4,310. That was the bid amount. I don't know the exact amount because ACHD did provide some of that free. We expect the cost to rent the same equipment this year could even be more. We are respectfully requesting that the city, again this year, and for the foreseeable future, cover the required costs for public safety and traffic control for the annual Meridian Dairy Days Parade. We feel that Meridian Dairy Days, which celebrates our community's heritage and is by far the largest celebration in the city of Meridian every year, needs to continue and to be supported. This is why we are asking that the city keep its support the same as last year, so together we can keep the largest parade in Idaho a fun and safe event. Now, if there's some questions, we'd like to answer those and have some discussion.
Thank you. Jerry, council discussion?
I've got a couple.
Okay, Mr. Cavanagh.
Jerry, a couple quick questions for you. It was news to me that the chamber isn't involved, and I'm sorry to hear that. I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Yeah, we were too.
I'm curious, what's your approximate cost going to be to operate the pancake feed?
I don't know those exact answers. We have someone who's heading up that, and they are not here today.
Yes, they are.
I think
They
he's
are.
sitting in the
Yeah,
back.
Bill is here.
Bill is here.
Bill is here.
I didn't see him back there. Yes.
It'd be great to get a ballpark on what that is, or maybe then you can share what was your cost of the inflatable attractions that you had in Story Park last
It
year?
was about $3,500. And at $1 a kid, it does not pay for itself.
No, it doesn't. Okay,
But we don't do it to make money.
sure. All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
I think last year when we had this hurdle in front of us, we addressed it through ordinance by committing that we would participate at a level we have historically participated in, and I would assume that that's probably the fix of that amount, and the participation level was the cost from last year. That amount will not cover the additional flaggers and safety equipment that ACHD is going to require, and I do not believe from the discussion last year that ACHD will provide that any longer. They provided about $5,300 worth of equipment last year. Is that correct, Bill?
That's the number I have, sir.
So I guess what I have in front of me is an unknown of what you're asking. Last year, the city participated in an amount of about $8,200.
Those,
I don't see us participating much more than that.
part of that is the overtime and the staffing, which has been addressed in an ordinance last year.
Right.
That's always taken care of. So that's,
Right.
to me, is not an issue here.
That's rolled up in the cost of the city.
True. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about additional costs to the city, is what we're talking about today. Yeah. And the 5,300 that ACHD provided, that seems high to me, because 4,300 was the grand total that specialty construction had for everything. And if ACHD gave them 5,300, that doesn't add up to me. 5,300?
Well, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I mean, that was the number was given to me, which seemed a little high as well. I don't know if Sergeant Gonzalez has a better figure than that. I mean, I was told, at one point I was told it was $500 that ACHD paid. So I don't have an exact figure as to how much they've paid.
That sounds more like it than
Yeah, I
5,300.
agree with that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Sergeant?
order of magnitude different.
John?
Hello, how's it going? John Gonzalez, Meridian Police. The figure for 5,300 from ACHD is $5,374.03. What that's about is in an after-action report that we made, ACHD provided us their costs. This included their costs for personnel and the materials that they provided, and the personnel that they provided to help set up the equipment, and also to do some of the flagging during the event. And so this also, if I read this correctly, this includes labor, equipment, and materials.
So I guess, Sergeant, you probably can't answer this, but, so their cost was almost 5,400, and the cost to the city was close to 4,000. So that total cost was over $9,000, and we're anticipating this year it would be 5,000.
Madam Mayor, the way that was calculated is I think ACHD included in their costs of personnel in the planning and the approval process as well. So I believe the way it's written in the document I received from them was all their time and effort towards the event, including the approval. Had we gone specifically just with specialty construction, our cost would have been about another $800 to $900 more, and specialty would have taken care of those items that ACHD had taken care of last year.
I'm not going to touch that one. Sorry, Justin, wherever you are in the audience. Okay. So this year, it looks like there's over last year, what the city paid is an additional $1,700. Is that correct, Mr. Neri?
Yeah, I believe so, ma'am, just from the numbers I have, ma'am.
Okay.
Can I ask, what's the 1,700?
It's because ACHD is not going to be a participant in the cost.
So they're not providing any barricades this year? Is that what they're saying?
That's what my understanding is.
That's what I understand.
And so for specialty construction to do the entire thing, it adds $1,000 to that price tag. And the other 700 is having the EMS and first aid staffing, as I understand it.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's correct. Chief Niemeyer figured in to compensate for the event, 4 personnel, 2 personnel assigned roving to the parade route, and 2 personnel assigned to the Story Park staging area, utilizing utility vehicles from the Parks and Recreation Department.
And Chief, I feel that you're at a disadvantage to answer this, but haven't we provided first aid staffing in the past?
We have provided first aid staffing, but it has not been consistently done. It's been typically based on our available staffing levels for the day, and not utilizing overtime to staff those events.
Okay. So really, we could wrap that into historical coverage. So it's really the $1,000 I would estimate is what we're talking about. Is that correct?
Over and above last year, yeah.
Mayor?
If I might add something or
Terry?
ask a question, I think the reason we're all here, or I know why you're here, but I know you had some questions as a council, and we have some questions as board, whether or not we can afford to put this parade on. And it's outside of our mission statement, what we really want to do. And we just really, bottom line, need to know what the city's commitment is to this, so we can decide whether we want to put a parade on.
I think the commitment's close to $9,000.
Good.
Not
All right.
not already counting the additional 1,000. If that were included, it would be close to $10,000. So that would be the city's
Good.
commitment.
All right, let's.
And apparently, we're underestimating our staff time like ACHD did. So I think we could at least say 20,000.
Sold. Yeah, I guess the reason I brought up the information about the chamber backing out of that is it seems that's happening in our community is no one wants to step up and volunteer their time to do things. And we're trying to do that the best we can. Just financially, with the restrictions that have been put upon for public safety and traffic control, we just can't afford to do it. And I'd hate to see gone.
Madam Mayor,
Madam Mayor. Oh, good.
if I may speak. First of all, council, the Dairy Show Board pays in excess of $32,000 a year in property taxes. So they do pay their share. This has been something that has always been, the 50 years I've lived here, has always been the biggest draw for downtown Meridian. It's the biggest thing that goes on. And I will tell you that those two guys and about 3 or 4 other from our board do all the work on that parade and everything else. And I certainly am one that do not want to lose it. And I got a printout, thanks to Steve, of our expenses on our Christmas parade. And I don't see where any of our time, police time or anything is in this cost. It isn't so. And we invested about $2,000, which I think I'm happy to do. I think that's something that is very nice. I'm sorry we had to take it over, but thank God we did. So if you added in your police and everything like that, I'm sure you're looking at $5,000 to $6,000, especially if we cost out our labor like ACHD does. So I for one want to see this continue on, and everything we take from the Dairy Board takes from our youth because of our scholarships, our sponsorship of, I can't remember, but I think one year we sent 17 kids back to the national FFA deal. Is that right?
From Meridian and Cuna both, yeah.
So we're nonprofit, but our money all goes back to the youth.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Neri.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, just follow up on what Councilmember Byrd just said. We do have a breakdown on the cost some of the costs for the winter parade, just as a comparison, and they are very comparable. I mean, there's a smaller charge of traffic control for the winter parade, but the parade's shorter than the dairy parade. So it does seem pretty relative. So again, I think the costs are fairly legitimate. I don't think there really is a question about what it costs and what it takes to put on a safe event like this. It really is just where's it going to come from.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zaremba.
if I may, I would include a couple of comments about the information we've been given about the Christmas parade. According to this, the actual total cost was a little over $10,000. The city ended up spending a little over $2,000 because Colin Moss, bless his heart, does an awful lot of work. He gets sponsorships. He gets apparently parade entry fees as well. He works very hard on that, and often without a whole lot of help. I think he does get a few people to help, but as the volunteers for this parade, he does most of it. I guess first I want to express my enthusiasm for Colin Moss and the Parks Department on what they're able to do for the Christmas one. But that also brings me to the question on the Dairy Days Parade. Are there any entry fees or sponsorships that help defray the cost on that?
There are. We do not charge nonprofit organizations, the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H, FFA, all those, they're in for free. Commercial and political candidates, we do charge. Not nearly what you charge for I think it's $25. And I don't know what the Winterland was.
And other
150 or something
sponsorships
like
either?
We don't have a sponsor for the parade. Corwin Ford was a sponsorship of Dairy Days last year. And we are in negotiations with Kendall Ford this year. They get first right of refusal, I guess, and if they don't, Corwin will step in. But I don't know what level they pay the city, but ours might be lower than that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Kavner.
I got maybe a question. This might help us. We've got a number in front of us, which is a city estimated cost for the parade. Do you guys have your own estimate on the cost? Or are you relying on the city to provide you with that data?
Well, it wasn't, what I'm relying on is not from the city, it's from Specialty Construction, who devised the traffic plan and where we needed signage and all that. That was the $4,310. That was last year's figure.
Right.
Yeah, we attempted to get another bid on that, but after numerous attempts, a fellow board member was not able to get that information.
And I do believe that 4310 that was from last year, John can probably answer that better. I think there was some additional things that I think the police wanted, some additional flaggers or something. And so I don't know what that new cost would be, but it would be more than 4,300.
I think the estimate, I don't remember what the estimate from Specialty Construction was initially, but there was some revisions based on some changes that had to occur, and then there were some things that were taken out because ACHD provided some of the material. Our invoice costs for the parade, traffic control for Specialty was $3,926.75. So in the same ballpark of $4,000.
Is that the Winterland parade?
Oh, no, this is Dairy Days,
Yeah.
From this year or last year?
2014.
Last year.
Yes.
It seemed like in our meeting in December, you identified the intersection of Pine and Main and Third. And Pine maybe is needing additional patrolman or something.
Today I talked to ACHD, John Wasson, and in reference to what changes we might anticipate with traffic control. The traffic control plan is devised by a traffic engineer, and they determine where the traffic control devices need to be. It needs to be compliant with the MUTCD, which is the Manual of Uniform Traffic something or other.
That was
That's
technical.
industry
Control
term.
devices
Control
is the C and the D. Anyways, so in the past, the police department has taken on the responsibility of traffic control, really not complying with the MUTCD, and in the future, ACHD wants all events to be compliant. So that's where the cost of the traffic control comes into play. The police can take on an event, but it has to be a short-term event, police type event, to be able to do traffic control. This is a planned event, so we would have to be compliant with the MUTCD.
Madam Mayor, follow up. Gentlemen, no, John, I think we're good. Here's where I'm trying to wrap my head around, and maybe you can walk me through it, because I'm not that bright sometimes. If you don't have your cost or what you anticipate it's going to be for this year, how can you say you don't think you can afford it? That's just,
Well,
I'm trying to struggle. You couldn't afford it last year? Is that what you're saying? Or just help me get to that, to
Okay.
where you came up that you guys can't make it work this year.
It was paid by the city last year. So we didn't pay it last year,
Any of it?
of the traffic control and public safety, correct. The city took that on. This year, we don't have an updated bid, but from what John just said, and the bid of last year, 4310 is the one that I've got with me here that Specialty gave us last year. They're, I believe, asking for additional traffic control measures on top of what was done last year. So that's why I'm thinking it's going to be higher. I can't imagine them giving us more for less money.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zaremba.
could somebody refresh my memory, the contribution that we did make last year, what budget did that come out of? How did we arrange that?
The hard costs of the traffic control, I'm not really sure. Yes, Lieutenant.
Madam Mayor, Council, I believe the police department covered all of that.
Police
And
department did
it was about, between personnel costs and the specialty construction, it was about $6,042.
Could I ask how much of that was specialty?
Well, the estimate I have here is.
3927.
Yeah, 3927.
Okay, thank you. And
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
if you want to remember right, when we originally come out with the 43 or something, ACHD had pulled their support last year until we had a joint meeting here, and I brought that subject up, and all of a sudden they decided they had stuff that we could use. So that's why specialty was a little cheaper. But I've been told this year that ACHD no longer has their equipment, nor do they want to participate, so, other than to make sure that it's done to their specifications.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
we made a commitment last year that we would commit to historical costs. And I think we need to live with that commitment. However, at some point in time, since we're 15 years into the 21st century, I believe the Dairy Board probably ought to look at your fee structure for your parade and look at the cost of the parade and see if you can defer some of the costs in the future through participants. Having said that, I would move that we participate in the historic costs of the parade in the amount not to exceed $9,000. Anything in excess of that amount will be borne by the Dairy Board.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Kavner.
This, is the intent of this to be for 1 year only, or is it something that we would want to have in place on an annual basis? I think it's important that maybe the dairy board know where the city's coming from as they plan.
My position, though it may not mean anything, is that there's going to be some inflationary costs to the historic things we've participated in. Our salaries are going to increase, rental rates are going to increase, so giving an inflation factor of the CPI, maybe that amount could be increased. I don't know, whatever the council wants to do next year to accommodate the inflationary aspect of what we've historically participated in. But this year, it's about a 10% increase, which pretty healthy.
Madam Mayor.
And if at some point in time, it doesn't make sense economically or financially to have the parade, then, all of us that have lived our lives almost completely with having a parade might have to change a little bit. But I hate to see that happen, but things do change over time.
And I think that covers everyone in this room since it's the 86th annual. Mr. Zaremba.
I'm trying to combine Mr. Kavanaugh's question with what Mr. Roundtree said. The second interpreted that as being only for this year. And I guess my question is, was I correct? That's sort of what Mr. Kavanaugh asked.
To me,
We're not
I
committing-
think you're
We're not committing
establishing,
future years, are we?
you're establishing a base. And
Would continue.
that this would be the historical contribution and to consider inflationary costs. Is that what I understood, Mr.
We
Roundtree?
committed by ordinance that we would participate in historic costs for these historic events, which the Dairy Parade happens to fall, I think there's 2, maybe 3 of those events that we covered. And this one is covered by that ordinance, so yes, this would be continuous,
Okay.
but it could be inflated.
Long as I understand that.
Yeah, it's not just this year.
Okay.
And I think this is the only event that met the 75-year ongoing, if I remember right.
Is it the only one? Okay, I thought
Okay.
there was another one.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Neri.
for future discussions, and I don't know if the council would like to include not just the dollar figure that you would want to evaluate, but what types of service. I mean, all of them have traditionally been the same. It's been park support in Story Park. It's been the medical staffing and the police and traffic control. I don't know if you would like that to be part of your motion or part of what the historical participation of the city is for those things versus just a dollar number, but it's up to you.
Bill, my motion was intent to implement the ordinance, which is to participate in the historic costs of the parade, public safety, medical, park support, and all of the things that we have
Traffic
typically done in the past. So that amount would cover the historic costs for this year.
Okay.
And anything in excess of that would be borne by the dairy board.
Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Kavner.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes. Thank you for being
Could I
here.
ask for clarification?
Mhm.
What, the figure was 9,000? Was that what it was? And then, so how much of that can we use for traffic control? How much of that was salaries, and that's already covered under the other ordinance? I just need a dollar figure that we can rely on. Well, I thought the 9,000 included salaries.
It does. It's a whole
That's why
thing.
I'm asking how much the salaries was.
We don't, I mean, it's hard to tell what the salaries are gonna be until it's over with. how much we've used and stuff like that. You can't I mean, you can estimate something out. but
I
the
guess
cost
it's
of
hard for
that-
us to estimate how much
But
we have then to spend, if anything.
From what I get on the paper we got here, I don't think it shouldn't cost you anything.
I hope that's the case.
Well, we hope so too.
I'm gonna add this up about as fast as I can.
Okay.
Add up your golf score, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully not like a golf score.
It kind of looks like mine. Estimated about half of that,
So about 4,500.
yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 6C is under the South Meridian YMCA concept, and I'll have our Parks Director, Steve Setaway, kind of kick it off.
Perfect. You have to screw it in.
And does it take three of you?
I'm not going to touch that one.
Take it off while we look at that. Plug this in. Good enough, careful with it.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for bearing with us while we got connected. We've invited the YMCA tonight to give an update on the South Meridian YMCA planning effort. As you know, they have a site that's been generously donated by the Hill family in South Meridian near Amity and Eagle. And tonight we want to hear from them an update of the planning efforts that have been going on in relation to the development of a YMCA, school, library, park, combined facility at that location. So I'm just going to turn this over to them because I believe their presentation will say all that and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Jim Everett with the Treasure Valley Family YMCA.
Scott Curtis, Treasure Valley Family YMCA.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us to be here today. What we're going to present is a quick overview of where we are, and this is what we're doing with as we go out and talk to potential funders, and we'll give you an update as to where we are on there. This is really about, we think about partnerships and about helping to uncover potential from all the people that we work with. Couple of quick facts. The Y doesn't ever turn anybody away due to the inability to pay. Last year, over $6 million in financial assistance was provided. The discussion just took place. Volunteerism is big at the Y. 6,000 people volunteer their time at the Y. In that potential, whether it's reading or swimming, this week, I'd love to have any of you go by any of our Ys. We'll have 1,000 kids that will learn to swim this week at the YMCA in our annual Spring Break Splash program. I'm going to show a quick video. Hopefully this will work. This is one of the things that we're showing to our potential donors as we go out. Can you hear that? Can you guys hear that?
And now
So this was produced just for this campaign, and that is one of the things that we're going out and showing to folks. So I'm going to go back to where we started. This actually started in 2005, and you may think back to 2005, a little different time. We had put together a Blue Ribbon Steering Committee chaired by Jim Cleary and Corey Jackson, looking at the potential of a YMCA in this community, and did some studying. There was a high demand for a YMCA. What caused us to pull back was we found out that the demand was beyond what we thought we could meet. We were looking at a smaller Y, and the economy got a little tough, and we were building a little camp project up at Cascade, up outside of Cascade, and we decided we need to put all our efforts into that. So we pulled back. 2008 happened, and we kind of put this on the back burner. From there, so we had some land at Gramercy, and that brought us back in the last couple of years to take another look at this. We did a feasibility study, which is something we always do, to see, is there money out there? Is there enough money to be raised to support a project like this? The feedback we got was that we could raise about $12 to $13 million philanthropically in this community. And then we did a market study to find out, is there interest? Do people need the kinds of services that a Y provides? And we found out, one of the stats on that survey was that there was the highest unmet need of any place they'd ever gone when they did this study. A lot of that revolved around family programs, aquatics, youth programs, and creating a community hub and a community that is known for catering to families. The City of Meridian came in. We met with Parks Director Sitaway, found out that there was a lot of interest here in a field house. Adult sports are big here. That's one of the programs that Parks and Rec runs, one of the many programs they do a great job with, but it's also one of the ones that supports itself in generating some revenue for the Parks and Rec Department. So we began some discussions there. Took a trip to look at some other Ys, and we looked at some national trends. Virtually, I'm not aware of a YMCA that's being built now that isn't in partnership with some municipality, most of them with hospitals, municipalities, school districts like we are. And so we gathered a group of about 22 of us from Mountain Home, CUNA, City of Meridian, Eagle, to go up and look at some of these facilities. Looked at 7 different facilities. They ranged in community size. Sammamish, that's about 60,000. We looked at some in Tacoma. We looked at communities as small as Sumner, which is about 8,000 people. And in each case, the municipality was partnering with the Y in that community to provide services that otherwise wouldn't have been provided. Then we started some discussions with the schools here in the West Ada School District. We have a long history in working with the schools, from youth sports to early childhood to after-school programs. When we started those discussions with schools, we're talking about the bond that didn't pass. We're delighted that the one that just went through passed overwhelmingly. It says a lot about the commitment in this community to kids and families. The schools now plan to open in 2016. Well, Scott's going to show you the plans for the school in a minute. One of the cool things with that school will cost $2 million less than it would have cost without the Y being a partner. We'll share gymnasium. They'll use our gymnasium. They will share library space. There'll also be cost savings to the Y, as we will use the classrooms after school. We had a meeting with Dr. Clark the other day, and all the teachers that get hired at that school are going to know that those classrooms are shared with after-school programs from the Y. Some teachers don't want to do that. That's okay, but they won't work at this school. They've got to have a mindset that these are all our kids and we're going to share the resources. So we'll come back to talking a little bit more about some of the savings. Then we had one of the best things. As we looked at this, the property at Gramercy just wasn't coming together in the way we wanted. We had developers, including Tommy Alquist and David Turnbull and Dave Wally and Clay Carley and Winston Moore, telling us, boy, if I'm a developer, I would not put as much energy as you're putting into this site at Gramercy. And then we got introduced to Marty Hill and Dixie Cook. And that was one of the best days we've had to get to meet those folks. It was interesting as we drove in the lane. They're a Century Farm started in 1891, same year that the YMCA was founded in this community. The Y goes back to 1844, but in this community, we've been around since 1891. We thought that was a little bit of kind of serendipity as we drove down the lane. At that meeting, we talked with them. They had long interest, had discussions with both ward and the city about donating a park in honor of their parents at that site, which used to be known as Hillsdale. The school, by the way, will be called Hillsdale. There was a school before with that name, and it'll come back to that name when it's built and opened in 2016. They wanted a park of 10 acres. We talked about the potential of a Y. They got pretty excited about that, and so now all of a sudden we're talking about a school and a Y and a park. Next, we ran into Gretchen Casserati, and I think everybody in here is aware that the Parks District is a taxing entity. The library, the library has its own taxing entity, and started discussions with them, and they had a lot of interest in partnering with the Y. They have unanimously approved on their board to go forward, and you'll see in the plans that we've got a spot for the library. We will share spaces in there. The library will be kind of central to this facility. Their bond will go out, they think, in November of this year. It would include a site for a library in South Meridian and North Meridian to kind of be matched with their current site in Central Meridian. So Gretchen Casserati, again, very collaborative, great to work with. We've long had partnerships with healthcare institutions. Currently, we've got one at each of our Ys, St. Alphonsus in the downtown Y and the West Y, West Valley Medical out at the Caldwell Y. And we've sent out RFPs and have gotten back some great responses. So we fully expect that we'll have a healthcare partner in this facility. We're determining who that will be. It won't be an exclusive arrangement because we do many, many programs like cancer survivorship, diabetes prevention, Delay the Disease, which is a Parkinson's program with both the primary healthcare systems in this community. We anticipate, and we'll talk more about dollars, that will bring some dollars to this partnership, which we'll need. So, for us, it is all about partnership. I don't think any of us can get the job done by ourselves anymore. And we've long since quit trying to do that on our own. Everything we do is in partnership with other organizations. It's in our DNA. When we say there's a community need, the first thing we ask is, who might we partner with? Who could we go lock arms with and work on? So you see the partners that are listed around there. And we'll add the healthcare partner probably within the next 6 weeks. So from just a dollars and cents standpoint, why does this make sense? I already talked about the fact that the school is going to cost $2 million less. I mean, you can look at the bond, the one that they put out that didn't pass, and then the one that passed. There's a $2 million savings just on the elementary school. For the Y, there will be savings because we won't have to build after-school spaces. We'll use the spaces the school has. We'll use some of our youth space will be the library. The library will share our receptionist. The parking lot will be shared. We had discussions just this week on the park there, and we'll be paying for the parking and the maintenance of that parking, and but it will also be used for park patrons. So there's a lot of benefit in doing this. We believe by the time we're all done, it'll be $4.5 to $6 million less money than if each one of us went out and built a park by itself, a library by itself, a Y by itself, and a school by itself, and a healthcare facility. So we'll have that number, but I'm very confident it'll be at least $4.5 to $6 million. That's really, I think, the drop in the bucket, because the long-term savings, the downtown Y is nearing 50 years old, and it's got a lot of life left in it. We expect these buildings, when we build them, to be well-maintained and to stay around for a long time. But if you just look at a 50-year life, that's where the costs really come in. And Councilman Roundtree probably knows this better than anybody with the oversight of the Meridian pool, the cost of running a pool. An outdoor pool is expensive to run. An indoor pool is exponentially more expensive to run with when you've got to heat the envelope and all that. So we believe there's going to be tremendous savings in this partnership arrangement. The schools will do, their PE programs will be with the Y at a much lower cost than if they were to run them, and with a lot more offerings. All the kids will learn to swim. They'll have access to the library, and they'll share librarian costs. The parks, it'll be great. We'll have space outside. The parks does a much better job of maintaining green space and outdoor space, so that's, that'll be some operating savings to the whole partnership. So we have not calculated that whole operating savings, but it's huge, and that's really important. The discussion you just had, we've all got to figure out ways that we can collaborate and do things more effectively and more cost effectively as well. At the end of the day, for us, this is really about outcomes. I'm going to share just some fairly quickly. We're about three things: youth development, and that's at the core of everything we do. Healthy living, and our target market really has evolved. Our target market is really people that have not had success with leading a healthy lifestyle. We welcome everybody. Kristen Armstrong's a member. She's not a health seeker, but many of our people are. They need a hand up. They've never had success for a long period of time. Those people take more time and energy, but it's what we do. It also helps that we've got partnerships with national organizations. We're kind of the go-to organization for the CDC now. They roll out programs, our diabetes prevention program, our cancer survivorship program, our Parkinson's program, all developed in other parts of the country and delivered to us so that we can spread them in communities like ours. So some of the results that we get, I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. A lot of people don't think about the Y in the youth development space of early learning. These are just some results from our P16 project. The P stands for preschool. The 16 stands for 4 years after high school. This is the most recent results from Caldwell, where we've done this program. We have these results in Meridian. We actually have more of these sites in Meridian, but we've probably done a better job in working with Lee Pesky and measuring the results. But you can see that we've got a 20% increase, or 20 percentage points. It's more of a percentage increase than that, but 20 percentage points higher of kids entering kindergarten ready to read than their peer group that has not gone through our P16 project. We have more than doubled the go-on rate in Caldwell. Now, I say we, that's a collective we. We're just a part of that. But part of this is by creating an expectation that every kid has potential and every kid can learn to read and every kid can learn to do math. We've taught every kid to swim in Caldwell, Homedale, Valley View school districts, most of the low-income school districts in Boise. We're now up to 24 schools. Every teacher would tell you that the results are great in the water, but they see those back in the classroom with better test scores, with better behavior. Other outcomes, we do surveys, some of the softer ones are around behavior. Our values are caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. I can tell you that when we survey kids, 99% of the kids who come to the YMCA since coming to the Y have become more caring about others. 99% of them. 98% of them will say, since coming to the YMCA, I tell the truth even when it's difficult. 91% of them say, I've gained resistance skills. I've learned how to say no when things are proposed to me. And it's not if, it's when that happens. When does somebody ask you to smoke this or stick this needle in your arm or to engage in activities that they shouldn't engage in? 95% of kids say that they've got positive role models, and the Y is a safe place for them to be, or the safest place for them to be. So, we get some great results in that area. Scott, I'm going to turn it to Scott. He's going to read a letter we just got last week. This is indicative. We can bring you lots of stories, and we love to bring you the stories of the meth addict that comes to the Y and the person who, the homeless person, and we've got those every day. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't have a homeless person show up at the Y. But it's also every day, folks, and Scott's going to read this letter to you.
Thanks, Jim, and Madam Mayor, members of the council. As Jim said, this letter came across our desk unsolicited about 2 weeks ago, and it says, it's by a man named David. And David writes, Dear YMCA, last year my family lost 30% of our income, and we were in a tough spot where we couldn't afford our YMCA membership. You stepped in and offered us about a 50% discount on our membership for the past 6 months. You're very generous, and I want you to know why this matters. First, my family has made some changes, and we are in a better spot than we were. My wife works 10 hours a week as a student worker at Idaho State Meridian, which is enough to cover her medical insurance. She volunteers at a food bank in exchange for a food donation. I got a 3% cost of living increase at work and shot an elk. We're doing better than we were 6 months ago, but are still in debt. I cannot imagine living without the why. It is my main source of exercise and not only brings me physical wellness, but is a major source of mental wellness for me as well. The why is my happy place. I drag myself in there after a lousy day at work and I feel better. It's good for my family and good for my community. My son and I swim there and play racquetball. I'm a better person because of you. Lots of people feel this way. The Y is an institution that makes a difference in the lives of countless people in the Treasure Valley, and you're a thriving hub and an international village for people of all lifestyles to work out, visit, and hang out. Boise is a better place to live, better, because of you. Last, your staff are awesome. They're friendly and always willing to help out. The best part, though, is how they greet everyone who enters or leaves. Please tell them how much we appreciate being treated like human beings by your smiling staff. It takes a good experience and makes it even better. This letter is powerful, as Jim said, because we provide $6.1 million in financial assistance, and the majority of that goes toward families. And I think it's easy for me to say that, you know, I'm one step away from being a David in this world.
So we're going to get into the plans here in just a minute. This is about building community together, and this community, Meridian, is known for being a family community, and we're going to strengthen that. Jay and Catherine Albertson Foundation, as you know, stepped up with $4 million as a commitment to this project, the largest gift they've ever given outside of the education arena. That says something. They believe in the Y's ability to change communities and change families' lives for the better. We're thrilled with that. A quote from Jamie McMillan, the great-granddaughter of Joe Albertson. You can read that, but it says, "My family and the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation are very proud to be part of what we know to be a world-class model for collaboration, a place for limitless learning possibilities for children and families." You know, when they step up like that, it puts some pressure on us. We want to deliver, but we're proud to be bringing $4 million to this community through the Albertson Foundation, and that's in support of us and support of what the mayor and the council stand for. So Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I get to talk a little bit about the facility. This is fun. We're not going to get too lost in details of the facility. There's a lot of dreaming still going on, but show you where we're at right now and why this is important that we're sharing this with potential donors, because they're getting excited about it too. First of all, sustainability of the project. We obviously have taken some time to do a pro forma. We believe this branch is going to meet community needs with a healthy mix of people from all economic backgrounds. Obviously, growth is significant in this area, and we think that's going to continue. As Jim mentioned earlier, the market study showed that this was one of the areas of highest unmet need that the folks had ever seen doing these studies. And they do those around the country for YMCAs and community rec centers. We also have a history of starting programs and garnering ongoing volunteer support to sustain them and keep them going well. From a building design standpoint, just want to update you all. We formed a buildings committee task force for this project. Councilman Roundtree and Mr. Sidaway both serve on that committee. That group went through a pretty arduous process to select architects. Hummel Architects were chosen for this project. As Jim mentioned, we benchmarked other partnerships, including in Seattle and Tacoma. Also want to mention that group then moved forward with selection of a general contractor, construction manager, and we worked in partnership with that committee as well as with the school district, and used their pre-selected CMGCs as our possible CMGCs for this project, and Russell Corporation was chosen to lead this project. A couple things.
I was just going to say, and that's for the whole project. So again, savings, instead of having an architect for the schools and an architect for the Y, and it's one architect and one general contractor, and that will save a lot of money and just make for a much better and smoother project.
So to orient you a little bit, Amity is just to the north of this picture, and also that's actually the true north from the map, and Eagle Road is just to the west. The lane you see going in there is Howery Lane, which is currently a dirt road, and this just shows a a model layout for the property. You see some fun things. There's holding spots for some of the partners. One of the things that we've learned from Hummel in the designs is the topography of this piece of land. It gives us some unique opportunities. This part to the east is actually 14 feet higher than the other side of the building. And so what it has allowed for is some design ideas that could really help having this building feel open and spacious and being able to see across the facility and down. So I'll show you the next picture. This is sort of a 3D coming in from the east. You'd see the YMCA entrance, which would be at the top of that 14-foot area. So that would be, a main floor. And when you walked into that main lobby, you would actually see through glass and see down to the pool area and through the glass area on the far side out to the park. Then you could also see the school, which is off to the left here, potential field house off to the right, and library is what's in the dark red to the bottom of your picture.
Just say the same entrance for the Y and the library. Different school entrance, but it's the same entrance. So again, saving on receptionists, that kind of thing.
And here's another view of that from the southwest. You can see the school. And again, on the southwest side of the aquatic center would be the splash grounds. And you can see the connectivity, the school being able to access the gym, being able to access the library, the Y being able to access all of those for the benefit of everyone. Again, this is sort of a placeholder. Here's another idea of the design, which takes the 4 courts of the field house and sort of staggers them, splits them, still gives accessibility to the library and to the schools, but looking at putting the aquatic center on the north side. Again, a lot of things still going on here. As Jim mentioned, one of the drivers right now is getting that school going. The school district really wants to open that elementary school in August of 2016. So the architects and Russell are working pretty crazily, actually, to get ready to be able to break ground on that in time to open in August of 16. And we're trying to get the rest of the master plan done so they can tie that in with the construction.
Timing for us.
Yeah, so timing for us, we're not exactly sure. A lot of that's dependent. As you all know, we have a governance process, and our board also expects us to have funds pledged. So we're looking at a lot of possibilities depending on the fundraising. We could open part of the facility concurrent with the school, or shortly after the school opens in late 2016. If we're going to build the whole facility, including aquatic center, that would be at least 2.5 years from now to complete that whole thing. And then there's the possibility of phasing in parts of the facility.
So maybe a simpler way, best case scenario, we'd have the whole thing open late 2017 or January of 2018. That's kind of best case scenario.
Some of the fun part about this has just been dreaming with the community groups. We had many sessions here in the community, as well as with the different committees looking at this and the partners. And it's just fun to think of all this can be. You see just some sample of pictures. Picture number 1 is an open seating as well as stairway space inside of the school. It also serves as a gathering area, teaching area, group project area. They're also planning to build some sort of a stage theater area inside of the cafeteria. It allows for opening up, and the YMCA will use that after school hours. And then you see some great images here of just open field house concepts, some of the neat things going on with aquatic centers, even building climbing walls into the aquatic centers, and things like that. A few more pictures here. Again, you see that school area in the top left with that open seating area, and you see the bridge that potentially will go across into the media center that the library will run for the school. Again, creating synergy, partnership, as well as saving dollars for everyone. Outdoor splash pad images here, as well as group exercise classes, of course, will be a part of this. And then just some more things, looking at some really creative designs on a track, including possible hill track models. The library, obviously, and a slide that may exit the building and come back in, and just having a lot of fun with this part of the project. And it's really fun to share this with potential donors and get their excitement about what Meridian could be bringing.
There's 2 things to add. So that hill track, I don't want to pad that, so that would actually have some hills on it. ADA compliant, but would have an uphill section to it, has a slide that goes off of it. And you think with slide, what does that have to do with exercise? We find a lot of the kids that come in need to they'll go up and down the water slide 20 times. They got to go up the steps every time. There's no elevator, to get up there. So they're getting exercise for the fun of going down the slide. So the same thing, walking on the track, if there's a slide and they go down the slide and have to go back up the stairs and get on the track, that's great. We've got to get these kids active, and we get a whole bunch of different kinds of kids that come in. Even some adults need to be kind of tricked into exercising.
So just a comment about the fundraising that we're doing and this campaign that, Jim mentioned us doing a feasibility study, and that was October of 2012 that the results were released, and it really has guided where we need to focus these years. You'll see that our fundraising is in 3 areas. One is capital, and that's focused on getting a YMCA in South Meridian. That's the largest portion of this campaign we're working on. At the same time, we're meeting with a lot of our old YMCA friends and family members, and trying to bolster our endowment, and some folks are making gifts. Most of those are in expectancies. People naming the Y in their will or a life insurance program or things like that. We're making some good ground there. And then the third part is really important to make sure everyone understands, and that's because this facility, once it's up and running, will have ongoing needs. And part of the why is having our volunteers go out into the community every year and raise funds for those financial assistance dollars that we provide. As we're doing this capital campaign, what we're calling our comprehensive campaign, we have to make sure that we're not cannibalizing those funds. And so many of the donors we're talking to give annually to that campaign, and we make sure we emphasize, first and foremost, we have to continue to support the programs we have going on, and we're asking them to continue at the same level with the annual campaign and give anything additional that they can to the other areas of the campaign.
So that's the overview. This is our steering committee. You'll see the by far the best looking one on there, the mayor, but other than that, we've got some pretty good folks on there too. So it's a good group. What we found, leadership is everything in these campaigns. We had a successful campaign to build a camp, and John Ferry was huge on that. And this is a group that makes me sleep a little easier at night, knowing these are people that get things done. They're committed to this project, and they're just great to work with. And we've had some very, very nice lead gifts in this. So really ours is fundraising and friend raising. We've been around a long time. We're going to be around a long time. First and foremost, we try to raise awareness. We try to tell a story. If somebody then gives money on top of that, that's frosting on the cake. We will need some people to do that. But every time we're going to look at trying to create awareness and have people understand who we are and why we do what we do. So this gives you a little update on where we are. Scott showed you on the capital side, we need to raise $20 million. To date, we have $7 million, and how that breaks down, we've got $5.5 million in pure philanthropy. We have put in this calculation, $1.5 million from the city, because the field house will add cost while it would, so we put a placeholder in 2.5 for the field house. That gets built on, then this project becomes 22.5. So hopefully everybody's following my math. So we have $13 million to go right now. We think we can get another $6 million. We're confident we can get another $6 million in philanthropy. So that leaves us with a gap of $7 million that we've got to figure out between the various partners, and we're working on that. We think that the healthcare partner, we're confident the healthcare partner will be one of those. So we did, when we ask people what the why is, this just gives you some of the words. You see family comes out, fun comes out, and I think of the city of Meridian, and one of the first things that come to mind for me is family. And then we ask people what they think about the why. These are some of the words that come to mind. With that, we'd stand for questions. Went through this fairly quickly. We are thrilled. I think you may know this is my final year at the Y. It'll be 41 years at the end of this year. I've gotten to do some awesome things. This will top them all. When we get this done, this will be a model nationwide. It will be a model statewide. David Turnbull, I think I can speak for him, and I can speak for Dr. Clark. You can verify this. They're already talking about, when do we do this in North Meridian? Let's get this done, and then let's go look at North Meridian, because, and other communities are going to try to be beating us to the punch. The library district is also interested in that. So first things first, we got to get this one done, but we think it's just going to be an amazing place for kids, the healthiest school in America. That's the attitude we're going to come in the school where we truly believe that every kid has tremendous potential and promise, and they're going to see that come to fruition. So with that, we will stand for questions.
Thank you, Jim. Council questions?
I have none. Just a nice presentation.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Kavner?
Got one. Park, library, school, YMCA, lots of partnerships come together. Who's ultimately in charge of the project? I mean, if the school says a classroom needs to be used for something, and the library says that something needs to be used for something, who gets to play the dad card, as we say in our household?
Councilman Kavner, that's a great question. This will be a condominium agreement. So we have, the West Y is that kind of an agreement. The city, many people don't realize, that's almost 20 years, that'll be 20 years old this January, that facility's been in operation. It's a condominium agreement, so there actually are ownership lines. So within the school will have the final say. Within the Y, we'll have the final say. It really is picking your partners carefully. The other day, so one example, I gave you one example of the kind of teachers they're going to hire there. I mean, Dr. Clark's gone on record. We will hire teachers that understand this is a shared facility. And if you don't like that, doesn't mean you're a bad teacher, but you're just not going to be very happy in this facility. The other example we were talking about the phasing of this, because the schools, once the bond passed, we're getting this open 2016, fall of 2016. That has the contractor and the architects very nervous, and so we're scrambling. And the question came up, all right, if we do this in phases and the Y builds part of this, we probably need to build a separate entrance. Bruce Gestrin said, no, we don't need to build a separate entrance. Come in through. Why would we waste money doing that? The Y patrons will come right through the same door, the school door. We might have to hire an extra security person that'll also be a welcoming person. So it really is, it's more attitudinal. There'll be some times where we'll have to have those discussions, but that's who will make those calls within the facility. We've done this. It's not a new concept for us. In the 20 years with the city of Boise, I can remember 2 or 3 meetings that we've had where we've had to kind of visit what we were trying to do, and I met with Doug Holloway the other day, the Parks and Rec director. Feel free to check with them. Talk to the city of Caldwell, where that partnership, and the schools. We use the schools every single week of the year. We're using a school for either our youth sports programs or our after-school programs or our preschool programs. So those opportunities for conflict exist all the time, but they rarely occur. And when they do, we just address them.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks.
Any other questions from council?
Madam Mayor, with your permission, may I share with you the materials we're using in our fundraising efforts?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I'll forewarn you when he passes those out. There is a pledge card in there. We don't go any place without seeing if anybody wants to help us. But yeah, we hope to bring you back some more news on fundraising. We've got a couple of 7-figure asks out there right now, and we're working hard to get this done. And I think Marty Hill is back there, and we want to thank Marty. Marty and Dixie have been unbelievable in this project, as has David Turnbull. Those are great citizens, and those guys, this wouldn't happen without Dixie and Marty and David and their contributions of land.
I was just going to thank Scott for moving the meeting schedule and location around. It's
you're welcome.
much more convenient.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this has got to be co-owned by us. This is not a Y project. This is a community project, and that's what we've learned over the years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, there were no items moved from the consent agenda, so we'll move into item 8A and B. And I'll turn this over to staff.
Madam Mayor, council members, you know our bench is not very deep in community development when I'm presenting a application item. Sonia Waters was not able to be here tonight, so I'm subbing for her. Ably, I guess we'll find out. This item, you may remember, was continued from March 17th to determine the requirements for the fencing along Mr. Kolop's property. And we're going to bring up a graphic here in just a second. The switch over from computers means I need the help of our IT director. We sent you in your packet a memo explaining the fencing requirements. Just a little bit of history. In 2006, Mr. Cullip testified at the P&Z hearing, and this was for the Bellabrook Estates as opposed to Bellabrook East sub, which we're talking about tonight. Mr. Cullip testified at the P&Z hearing and requested that the commission require fencing along the along the south boundary. Let me see if I can bring the... Okay, good, we're up. And that was, this is Mr. Cullip's property here. The south boundary of his property is right here. And requested that the P&Z require fencing along that south boundary. Staff was advocating against the fencing because it would be within the floodway and floodplain, both of which cross that southern portion of Mr. Cullip's property. Mr. Cullip didn't testify at the council about the fencing issue. We followed up with the floodplain administrator regarding the fencing within these areas. And Dave Miles has confirmed that fencing is prohibited from being constructed within the floodway. Can't do it at all. But you could do it within the floodplain with a special floodplain permit. However, it wouldn't be continuous fencing along the southern part of the fence. So that's a bit of a problem. And fencing is not required by the UDC. So that's a little history and background, but I need to point out that Mr. Cullip's property does not actually touch the current application's location. So you see here that the current application is the area which is crosshatched. Mr. Cullip's property touches the northern part of this common lot associated with Bellabrook, the original Bellabrook sub. And that's not part of this development application. So I don't see a way in which we could require fencing through this application process for an off-site piece of property, if you follow my reasoning there. And in addition to the fencing, looking at the public record from last week, staff believes there are some additional items that need further clarification from the council and the applicant. First, the details and the location of the amenity. Basically, where does the developer propose to place it? I'd like to hear from the applicant on that. Paving the emergency access. One of the things that was left open last week was that the developer wishes to do gravel rather than paving the emergency access. And there was some discussion with fire about that. Third, requiring the multi-use pathway within the development of Lot 5, and that's this piece of property here. And finally, the looped water system. Also like to hear from the applicant and perhaps our city engineer on that issue. Those are staff comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for staff?
I have none.
Okay. Would the applicant like to make comment? Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Ben Thomas, P.O. Box 170811 in Boise, 83717, representing the applicant. Again, as I stated last week, the applicant is in support of all the conditions in the staff report as written, except for the 2.1.1 regarding the water line issue. And he's not as much opposed to that condition as he just wants to get clarification on why it's necessary, or if it's necessary and why that is, because there's already an 8-inch line stub to the site. So I'm sure Mr. Stewart will tell us why that's necessary, if it is, and we'd accept that condition if the water line really does need to be there. As Bruce stated regarding the fencing, that was, I think, a condition of approval in the 2006 project. that was approved for Bellabrook. As you know, that project expired, that preliminary plat died before the final plat was recorded. In 2013, we reapplied with a new preliminary plat for Bellabrook, which was a different concept. It wasn't the original condominiums, but a bunch of single-family detached homes. That project was approved with no condition to put a fence along Mr. Culp's property. And so therefore, when that 2013 project was built out, final plat was recorded, we feel like we did comply with all of the conditions of approval of that project. The amenity that we're proposing for this is a picnic table or similar site amenity as defined in the UDC. We did submit a detail for the picnic table prior to the last P&Z hearing. We'd propose actually to move that now down to our Lot 1, Block 1, which is the long common lot that goes out to Locust Grove that also contains the fire access road. So instead of putting it up on the common lot in Bellabrook, we actually now propose to leave it down on our site. I did speak to the applicant today. He still very much wants to leave the fire access road gravel. And so with that, we stand for any questions.
Mr. Zaremba.
Maybe I misunderstood, but it sounds like what you just said is that you want to put a picnic table in the middle of that emergency access.
Not in the middle of the road itself. That common lot's 50 feet wide. The fire access road only needs to be 20, so we have plenty of room to fit that in there somewhere.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Questions from council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a continued public hearing. Is there any further testimony to consider on this application? Okay.
Madam Mayor. Mr. Stewart may want to comment on the water looping, but my assumption is the necessity for that is so that we don't end up with debris or whatever it is that collects in the line sometimes when it's a dead-end line and not looped in. Makes it difficult to flush when we're trying to remove the brownish materials. Mr. Stewart.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, that is one very important reason that we try and do this. As you guys are aware, we had a discussion a number of months back regarding redundancy and secondary connections to subdivisions. We had proposed at that time to set a number of lots that you could add. We backed away from that, essentially went back to the former policy until we could come back to you with something that had been vetted through the community. So we now just look at these on a case-by-case basis, but there are a number of reasons that it's very advantageous for us to loop particular developments. Increased fire protection or improved fire protection is one of those. Water quality is a significant one of those, and you are correct. It does help to move water continuously through those lines, which prohibits, or not prohibits, but minimizes the amount of sedimentation that comes out and settles in the pipes, and it has to be flushed out. So we don't have to flush that system as often. The water quality that the residents of that subdivision receive is higher quality water. It's easier for operations to maintain. They don't have to come out there and flush as often. They don't have to waste as much water because they aren't flushing that to waste. So there are a number of advantages to that. It also helps to facilitate growth in adjacent developments as that comes in. So there's a variety of reasons that we look at. We try and make sure that at this point we only make this request when it's reasonable, that there's not a significant amount of off-site main lines and things like that that have to be constructed, but that's a fairly reasonable request, and that it improves water quality, fire protection, and also operational ability at that particular site. So those are the reasons that is done, and with that I'd stand for your questions.
Any further question on that, Mr. Zaremba?
No, that was an answer to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from council? Any final comment from the applicant? Okay.
Madam Mayor, question for Bruce. Did the discussion about the picnic table and whatnot, with respect to its location, answer the question about the detail and location of the amenity? Okay.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Roundtree, yes, it did. Of course, we still have outstanding, and thank you for bringing that up, the issue of paving the emergency access, and then also the issue of requiring the multi-use pathway to be developed along with the development of Lot 5, the lot along to the east.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Zaremba.
On that third point, requiring the multi-use pathway with the development of Lot 5, I think that came up because it was unclear whether it needed to be developed now or whether it could wait until the development of Lot 5. My feeling was that it would be okay to wait for the development of Lot 5 as long as we knew it was going to come up and be insisted upon at that time. That's my personal opinion. I think the original request was that it be developed now. And the applicant wanted it to wait, and my concern was we need to make sure there's a way to make sure it happens when Lot 5 develops. I don't know if I'm interpreting what everybody else thought too, but we definitely want that pathway. I think it's okay if it waits for the development of Lot 5, as long as we know that it can't slip through the cracks sometime when Lot 5 comes up for further subdivision. That was my opinion. I see heads nodding.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Zaremba, that's my understanding of what the conversation, I wasn't here last week, but conversation that took place. Making that clarification for the record would be very helpful to staff.
And then we also had some discussion about the paving the emergency access. The response was that most likely the emergency access is needed by the fire department, and when it is time for them to use it, whether it's 6 months from now or 20 years from now, that access has to be passable by their equipment should the other public roadway access be unavailable. The fire department seems to be comfortable with leaving it gravel as long as it's built to a certain standard, because it's not going to be an actively used area. They did say that if it was an area that was going to have vehicles on it in the interim, the gravel would probably spread and get screwed up, and that would not be satisfactory. But it sounded to me like they were saying as long as it's a low-use area, maybe a pathway for people to walk, but they were comfortable with it being gravel as long as the sub-base was designed for its intended use, which is a fire truck has to be able to drive on it. So they were feeling that it would not get messed up and didn't see the necessity for it to be paved. And I'm happy to take their take on that. I see other heads nodding again.
That's
Madam
it.
Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
if there's no more testimony, I would move that we close the public hearing.
On both of them?
On both.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close public hearings on items 8A and B. Oh, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All ayes.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Roundtree.
I move that we approve item 8A with the following clarifications for staff with respect to the development agreement and the final plat, or the development plats, that the location and amenity as described this evening will be included, that the emergency access will be paved, requiring that the multi-use pathway be developed with the development of Lot 5, and that the water system be looped.
Motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second to approve item 8A.
Madam Mayor?
Madam Mayor, the point I make with the paved emergency access is that a dust unabated gravel facility that length, abutted by, I think there's 14 or 15 homes, will be a dust nuisance when somebody drives their motorcycle up it, or a four-wheeler, which they will do. It will be a constant weed battle, which it will. It'll be a very nice home for goat heads, and flat tires for the kids that ride their bike up and down it. And it will, over time, be much easier to maintain if it's paved. So that's why I'm recommending that we pave the emergency access facility.
Further
Madam Mayor.
discussion? Yes, Mr. Byrd.
On the motion maker, what specification of paving are we going to do on that emergency access?
It has to be specified, the subbase and the paving surface has to be sufficient to carry the 77,000 pound load that would be traversing it.
Councilman Roundtree, the code requires a 75,000 pound load rating.
75,000.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
I have none.
Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
Motion carried. The hearing is closed. If you have additional questions about what the council's action was, please come forward.
Yes, I will. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Danny Xu. My address is 1681 Belaluka Lane. Yes. Danny Xu.
Can you spell
okay.
it? Yeah.
Danny, D-A-N-N-Y. Xu is X spelled as X-U.
XU.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm currently living in the Bella Brook subdivision.
And your backyard
My
backs
backyard
up
is
to-
actually right next to the private road. So so as a resident of the subdivision, I talked to my neighbors and who have their backyards on the same line, right next to the back private road today. So they, because they have to work, so they are not able to come to this meeting. They told me that I could actually represent their opinion regarding this the paving of the back road. So I gathered their information. Basically, all of us agree that we would like the road to stay as gravel. For a couple of reasons.
Okay, the council action, it's too late. The council just asked that it be paved, and they just voted on that, so it's...
I was trying to express my opinion from there, but, right before you guys...
The public hearing had already been closed. So your testimony is captured from last week when you were here, and we do have an ordinance about dust control, and so the decision has been made by City Council.
Okay. Well, I just
Okay.
want to express opinion, not just for myself, my family and also the families that will be affected by the city council decision, because we live in that subdivision, and that's how we think about the condition of the back road.
Right, and I think that was part of the discussion from council in terms of it will be easier for upkeep, the weed problems that can come up in a gravel road will be minimized with the pavement, and it follows our ordinance for a dustless surface.
Okay.
It's not a road.
Yeah, it isn't a road.
Yeah,
And it will be, no one's going to use it as a road. It will be blocked from the road. The only one who will have access is our fire department or our emergency services.
Okay.
We appreciate you being here, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, item 8A, council, in front of you, you have resolution 15. Oh, I'm sorry. 8B.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Roundtree.
I move that we approve the item 8B with staff and council's comments.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item 8B. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Item 8A is Resolution 15-1058. It is to appoint Don Cronk to seat 1 of the HPC. Council, you do have the information in your packets, and I would stand for any questions.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
seeing no questions, I move we approve resolution number 15-1058.
Have a motion and a second to approve item 9A. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Item 9B is an update, and I'll turn this over to Robert.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm here today. Emily King couldn't be here, so I'm here as their lone representative. You may remember we presented to you back in January on Percent for Art to get a little bit of feedback from council on how to move forward. I'm here today with an update on that from the conversation that was had with the Meridian Arts Commission back in November, City Council in January, and the conversation we've had with the Meridian Arts Commission the last 2 months regarding Percent for Arts type ordinance for the city of Meridian. We took the feedback from City Council to the Arts Commission in order to get their recommendation for council on how they would like to proceed with a Percent for Arts type ordinance here in the city of Meridian. And so I'm here to bring back the discussion and recommendations to you for consideration to hopefully get additional guidance on how to move forward after this meeting. So with that in mind, the purpose of the funds that we talk about are to create public art and spaces throughout the city, including art on municipal facilities. They did feel that based upon the approaches which were discussed with them, that having a steady amount would be the preferred approach as compared to coming in with the fund balance transfer at the end of a year, which could have given a lot of money in any given year or a little bit of money. But they felt with where we are in the city, having some predictability would be the best way to try to infuse art into the community. With that in mind, they felt that the general fund amount based upon a per capita amount, as well as enterprise fund based upon a per account amount, would be the best ways to create a reasonable amount of funds over time frame with some specific projects in mind. So what does that mean? Well, what that looks like is we talked about doing a 50 cents per person per year from the general fund. The number you have there for FY16 estimate is more of an exact amount based upon the Compass figures that they just adopted. We are now over 90,000 people based upon the Compass estimates. So that's a 50 cent per person per number based upon that. I've estimated 2,000 people per year growth into that figure which based upon the 6,000 that was last year, that could be low. But we've also talked about capping that amount at $50,000 a year as one way to still allow it to grow, but also have expectations that it's not going to continue to grow every year beyond a reasonable amount. And I'll get into part of that is just from a workload standpoint. I think that unless you're going to get into doing very large projects, most of the projects that we've talked about doing in this fashion, some of them are a couple lower dollar amounts, and there are a couple larger projects. But even those larger projects take a lot of time and a lot of energy and effort. And even with the addition of Hillary Bodner to help them with their work, it still is going to take time and effort to do these. So with that in mind, you can see what a 5-year percent for arts type ordinance would entail. That would have the city doing 5 traffic boxes a year for 5 years, so getting 25 traffic box arts over the next 5 years, and looking at 2 projects in our parks with an estimated cost of $75,000 each. And that could be high, that could be low, but it's working with our parks department to identify where those would be the best size, location, type, and then doing some complementary downtown art pieces. We have the Under the Sun and Dreaming at the south end. The MDC is working with the Arts Commission this year to do something at the north end on the parcel, and it's really trying to find some pieces that would be complementary to those in our downtown to go along with the traffic box art that's being done. So that's the recommendation for the general fund. Enterprise fund. This one would look more about $1 per account per year, and I've left this at $30,000. I think that there's some, even in talking with Carrie Glenn, there's that number fluctuates, and I think we'd have to just figure out a little bit more what exactly that means in terms of, is it active accounts? Because some go active, some shut down. But she did say that they are growing by about 500 accounts a year right now. So you can see where that would put us over a 5-year period. And from this perspective, we looked at doing 2 public art projects, one at the water department, which is adjacent to a park on their property that would be accessible to the community, and then one at the wastewater treatment plant that would be near the RV dump in a public place. What those would look like, we don't know if they'd be just decorative, if they would be interpretive. Again, working with the Public Works Department to ensure that whatever was produced met with what they would like to see and what the Arts Commission thinks would be a benefit and value to the community. So those are the projects that we have come up, the funding sources and the identified projects. So really where we are today is to see if City Council is interested in pursuing this type of approach of funding arts in the community. If so, I'm sure Mr. Neri would direct his staff to work on a proposed ordinance that could be brought back for council, probably at the, I'm just going to guess, the workshop in April. We could probably have something that would be considered for your review and move forward. And if that does put in place, I know MAC is excited to update their strategic plan with the public art component to it. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Robert. Council, any questions? Okay, we are seeking direction. Mr. Kavner.
Maybe a comment then. I'm, at the 101 level, really supportive of this idea, this proposal. The piece that I'm struggling with, and maybe this is an item for discussion during our workshop, is the dollar per account tied to the enterprise fund, and my concern from that rises with, as Public Works Director Tom Berry has discussed many times, the significant cost that our citizens are going to have to pay as we become compliant with the federal government, and the cost that will be passed on to them. I'm concerned about adding an additional dollar on top of that for art. Like I said, it's just one person's opinion. I like the idea of tying it directly to population out of the general fund, I'm going to need some massaging on doing a separate fund out of the enterprise fund personally. Just my opinion.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Cavanagh, Council, and you know, Mr. Stewart is here, and he can definitely speak for the Public Works Department if he needs. I have spoke to the Public Works Director, and I think he does share, you know, that everything that you do does add towards that bottom line over 10 years. In our conversations, I don't want to misrepresent where he is. He was not opposed to this in the concept that this is at least a very reasonable figure. Whether or not council views that as being reasonable over the 5 years, I think is that question. But it was at least something that he did not tell me not to come up here and say specifically, though he may have given different directions to Mr. Stewart.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, no, he did not.
He just had the rates up.
Just wanted to verify.
Madam Mayor, I have the same concerns as Luke does about the enterprise fund. It seems to me that, you know, they're just a subset. They're a subset of the entire populace. Our ratepayers are still in somewhat of a upward spiral in terms of rates. Over 10 years, it's a lot of money, and it's money that we don't know that we couldn't certainly better spend in improvements to the wastewater and water facilities that we have in place. So I don't have an objection to funding public art with the nominal 50 cents a head. And at least in that proposal, we have an idea of what we're going to get. We don't have really an idea or sense of what we're going to get with the enterprise fund. So I think for now, my direction would be go ahead and look at the general fund approach, and as I think we're going to get a rate discussion relatively soon, are we not?
Yeah, May.
In May, that I'm going to withhold my direction on the enterprise fund until I hear some more about what rates are going to do.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I too think that the ratepayers are paying the max right now. We just hit them with a $375 a month savings account deal to go on it. As far as 50 cents per citizen, I have no problem with that. I do doubt the Compass's counting, because they get paid by how many we got. I would like to see what the state think we are, because they pay us by how many we got. And I will say that the census I've been around, 2000 and 2010, Compass has been 5 to 10% high with their estimates to what our deals come back.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Byrd, based on the 2010 census, Compass was a lot closer than anybody else was in their numbers.
I know state's low.
And all I can say is, from the perspective, that's what we pay for dues to pretty much every other organization is based upon our Compass dues to others. So it's at least an apples to apples comparison about what others are charging.
I did offer NAMPA to pay for our population estimate, and we'd pay for theirs, if that helps.
Didn't make them feel any better.
No, they didn't go for it. Any other questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Zarumba.
I guess it's been said, but just to chime in, if council makes the decision that it's a legitimate expense to provide Meridian with artwork and that improves the the area, I can see spending that money out of the general fund. I go along with the idea that the enterprise fund has a specific purpose, and that's what the public expects it to be used for. I don't even particularly want to open the door to saying, ooh, we're collecting this money, we're going to start using it for other things besides water and sewer. I'm uncomfortable with that. You know, if we, in an open meeting, make the decision to spend general funds that way, we'll hear about it if the people don't like it. I just personally think it's a little unfair to redirect funds out of the enterprise fund. So I wouldn't go that direction.
Thank you. Well, I will then have legal to put together the necessary documents. Do I need a motion for that? Okay. And we'll bring it back in April. Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Byrd.
I would like for the Arts Commission to take a look at that ordinance too. Make sure we're not giving them an ordinance that they don't want to, they can't do or won't do. Let them look at it too.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember, we can definitely take that back to them. I think the plan that has been provided is based upon that information, and that's why we brought back something that was doable and more than they could handle over 5 years.
The word ordinance is different than what we thought, the way they go, so let them look at it, please. I would feel comfortable.
We'll have to bring it back later in April.
Is it a big necessity? Is it a big necessity?
I don't think there's any time element. Okay, thank you, Robert. Item 10A is ordinance 15-1639. Madam Clerk, will you please read this by title only?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City of Meridian ordinance number 15-1639, an ordinance AZ 14-014 Sulamita Church for annexation and rezone of a parcel of land being located in the northeast 1/4 of the northeast 1/4 of Section 9, Township 3 North, Range 1 West, Ada County, Idaho, as described in Attachment A, and annexing certain lands and territories situated in Ada County, Idaho, and adjacent and contiguous to the corporate limits of the City of Meridian, as requested by the City of Meridian, establishing and determining the land use zoning classification of said lands from RUT to R8 Medium Density Residential District in the Meridian City Code, providing that copies of this ordinance shall be filed with the Ada County Assessor, the Ada County Recorder, and the Idaho State Tax Commission as required by law, and providing for a summary of the ordinance, and providing for a waiver of the reading rules, and providing an effective date.
You've heard this ordinance read by title only. Is there anyone who would like to hear it read in its entirety? Seeing none.
Hearing none. Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I move we approve ordinance number 15-1639 with suspension of rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 10A. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried. Council, any topics to consider under 11?
I have none at this point.
Okay, I would ask for a motion then under 12A for executive session.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Byrd.
I move we go into executive session as per Idaho State Code 672345, 1C, 1D.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn into executive session. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Aye.
Councilmember Byrd.
Aye.
Councilmember Roundtree.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaremba.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carried.